Alrighty, so today we are going to do the preview looking at tomorrow, where we're going to have 3 games that's going to be happening as part of the midweek action. And it's hard to believe, but we are also about 1.5 months before we get into the final week of the season, also known as Decision Day 2021 in MLS. And with the way that there's a lot of teams that still have to play about 11 and some even 12 games left in the season, and since we only have a month and a half, get ready for a lot of midweek games, and we're going to sort of have kind of that throwback from last season where basically pretty much almost every single day we have at least a game, and that a lot of these teams will have to play 3 games in 7 days from now down the stretch. But that being said, in terms of this midweek action, like I said, tomorrow we have 3 games that's going to be happening in MLS, but technically there is actually going to be 7 MLS teams that's going to be involved in action, with the 6th, of course, in MLS play. But we also have the Seattle Sounders taking on Santos Laguna in the League Cup, which that game, I will watch that one, but don't expect me to do a review about that game because you know how my feeling is toward the League Cup. And then tomorrow, I believe we have 8 games that is going to happen, including one of them is the one that I think I'm planning to go between the San Jose Earthquakes versus RSL. But technically, there's also one other team tomorrow that is not going to be involved in terms of the midweek action, but they're still going to be playing, and that is the Philadelphia Union that's going to be playing against Club America in the CCL second leg semifinal, and that is a game that I'll definitely do a review and talk about whether or not if the Union could overcome a 2-0 deficit that they suffer against Club America back in the first leg. But before we actually kind of talk about that tomorrow, let us actually talk about the 3 games that's going to be happening tomorrow. And we start off with NYCFC versus FC Dallas, and it's another one of those rare kind of inter-conference matchup. I mean, I know in previous year I usually don't say that inter-conference matchup is kind of rare and not really normal, but with this year it's kind of the case. I mean, it's with the way that not pretty much almost every single match are inter-conference matchup, and every team only gets to play 2 teams from the other conference. It does feel weird every time we see a matchup that is kind of like an inter-conference matchup, and this is one of those. NYCFC playing against FC Dallas, as this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:30, 8 p.m. local time. And by the way, all 3 of these games is going to be kicking off at the same time, and knowing the fact that tomorrow I have to work until I believe 7:30, yeah, I'm gonna have pretty much no chance in terms of watching these 3 games. I'm going to have to try my best to just watch the condensed version of these games. Now, NYCFC, they're coming off of a 2-1 loss against New England on the road, while Dallas, of course, drew 1-1 to the Quakes at home. And in terms of the last 5 head-to-head game, it was Dallas and NYCFC drawing 1-1, but this was all the way back in 2019. Before NYCFC winning 3-1 against Dallas, and then it was another 1-1 draw between both of these teams at Frisco. Then it was a 2-2 draw between both of these teams at Yankee Stadium, and then Dallas win the first ever meeting between both of these team as they won 2-1 against NYCFC, and also this is only the 6th meeting between both of these teams. But yeah, certainly I think coming into this game, NYCFC is going to be the favorites because that they're definitely motivated and trying to bounce back after that tough loss that they have against New England, which I talk about how I didn't think they played badly against a team that is potentially going to win the Supporters Shield. They really did give the Revs a bit of a fight until that red card basically changed everything. And of course for Dallas, this is a tough one for them. Not only the fact that they play against one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference on the road, but also the fact that, since this is a midweek game, it's a short rest, and, even though Dallas is not really kind of in an area where it's like in the West Coast and you have to fly all the way across the other side of the country, it's always tough when you have to have a midweek games and you have a long travel and you have to play against one of the toughest team in the Eastern Conference and one of the toughest team to get home wins or away wins in the Eastern Conference. It's not going to be an easy task for this Dallas team to get a win, which is why that last game against the Quakes, how that really hurt them with them not getting all 3 points, because if they would have got 3 points in that game, this one there might be not as much pressure of them potentially getting a point on the road to keep themselves in that conversation of a logjam of a playoff race in the Western Conference. But moving on, in terms of the next match, is Columbus versus the New York Red Bulls, and I call this the desperation derby because both of these teams are desperate in terms of ending a very bad stretch that they've been on throughout not just these last month, but really for a while now. That both of these teams have just been really struggling this season. Columbus, of course, they have a record of 7-6-11, and they have only won 1 out of their last 9 games. While the Red Bulls have a record of 6-5-10, they also have only won one game out of their last 10 games. As this game again is going to kick off at 7:38 p.m. local time and start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. The last 5 head-to-head meeting between both of these teams, well, the Red Bulls, with the last 10 games. The only win that they had in the last 10 games was against the Columbus Crew, where they were able to win 1-0 against them at home. Before the Crew did win 3-2 against the Red Bulls before Columbus did win 2-0 against the Red Bulls. By the way, that 3-2 win was actually in the playoffs, not last season, in the first round of the Eastern Conference. But before that, it was the Crew winning 3-2 against the Red Bulls, and then it was a 1-1 draw between both of these teams. But like I said, this is a desperation derby. It is a game where it's pretty much a must-win for both of these teams if they want to stay in the playoff conversation. I mean, I talk about how the Red Bulls, they are really starting to be that team alongside with the other bottom feeder in the Eastern Conference that is pretty much are getting close to see you next season mode. Whereas for Columbus, remember how they were a team that a couple of months ago were in a good spot in the playoffs? Well, because of this bad run that they've now slipped all the way down in 10th position. And again, if they do not get out of this bad run that they are in right now, they unfortunately will be one of those infamous teams that won MLS Cup the previous year, but only to fail to make the playoffs next season. In fact, might make a video later on where I'll talk about all the teams that won MLS Cup and see how they did the very following season, and basically see how many teams have actually missed the playoffs after winning MLS Cup. I mean, the only team that I remember, and this probably is the last team that have won MLS Cup and basically failed to make it to the playoff next season, was the Portland Timbers back in 2015. And ironically, that team was coached by Caleb Porter, and it feels like it's deja vu all over again, where this Columbus Crew team coached by Caleb Porter is having a deja vu moment of just like the Timbers team, win MLS Cup the 1 year and then have a disappointing hangover in the second year and fail to make the playoffs. But now moving on into the last game that we're going to talk about in this preview, that is Toronto FC versus Inter Miami. So both of these teams is definitely in heading into opposite direction, whereas TFC pretty much cement themselves of potentially being the worst team in MLS. Well, actually, I wouldn't say they have cement themselves in terms of being the worst team in MLS, but pretty much cement themselves in see you next season mode, because they're already started to think about the off season, but they're going to be playing against a Miami team that is definitely not thinking about see you next season mode. I mean, maybe they were thinking about that after losing 5-0 against the Revs at home, but ever since that loss, they have been red hot right now. One of the hottest team in the league right now, winning 4 out of their last 5 games and have been unbeaten in the last 5 games, and their record is 8-5-9 compared to Toronto has a dismal 3-6-14 record, and I believe they now have the longest active winless run in MLS at 8 games. As I said, this game will start at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, but the actual kickoff is 7:38 p.m. local time. Only 2 prior meeting between both of these teams. The last meeting was Miami winning 3-1 against Toronto, and that was probably the best performance that I thought Inter Miami had played in that game, because they absolutely just destroyed TFC in that game. And even though the scoreline doesn't show that, it could have been a lot worse if Inter Miami was a little bit more clinical in that game. And then, of course, the first ever meeting was TFC winning 2-1 against Inter Miami. But like I said, coming into this game, Inter Miami is going to be heavy favorites, which is something that I didn't think I was going to say a couple of months ago, but this is where they are right now. This team is just red hot right now. In fact, if they can win this game, they're actually not only going to be above the red line, but they can jump as high as 6th place right now. And yes, I know tomorrow we still have DC and Atlanta, of course, play, or yeah, both DC and Montreal, of course, is playing tomorrow. That is above the red line right now. But even with that, Inter Miami, as I mentioned before, they have a game in hand over the team that is above them, and you know, if they can even win that game in hand that they had, this team can be in a very comfortable position in the playoffs. And you know, I gotta give it a lot of credit to what they have been doing, especially what Phil Neville has doing, really proving a lot of doubters, including myself, wrong. I mean, you know, this is why I always said in the beginning of the season, it's kind of, I know as much as I kind of criticize some players or even head coaches of the fact that they're probably not have a good season, that doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. And right now it seems like Phil Neville is clearly proving me wrong, and sometimes I'm happy to accept that he's proving me wrong, and is doing a great job with this team. And really, if this Inter Miami team continue to surge the way that they are, there might be even some conversation. The fact that Phil Neville could be a candidate for coach of the year, and this is also the same head coach that a couple of months ago it looked like he was going to be the first head coach to let go. And I think that is probably the fastest kind of reverse conversation we ever had with a head coach from being so close to being a chopping block, but now all of a sudden is even considered to be a coach of the year candidate. But that's what soccer can do to you, and that's what good form can do to you. And certainly Inter Miami will look to try to get another win and get themselves above the red line for the first time this season in this game against a lowly opposition that is Toronto FC. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the preview of these free games. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these free games. And also let me know in the comments below your prediction for all three of these games. And also, just for the heck of it, let me know in the comments below what do you also think about that League Cup game between Seattle versus Santos, which, you know, Seattle is our last hope in terms of an MLS team winning League Cup. But, you know, we'll see if that is going to be the case. And especially, you know, I feel like the Sounders are actually taking very seriously in terms of the League Cup, which I guess it's understandable because, you know, I think in previous year they have always been a team that kind of doesn't really live up to the expectation whenever they go into an international tournament, and now they have a chance to kind of prove a lot of people wrong and really kind of maybe create another kind of one up for MLS over Liga MX if an MLS team could potentially beat another Mexican team. And you know, we already saw the Sounders did that to Tigres, and let's see if they can maybe do that against Santos in the League Cup. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.